you, Chris. Next up, we have the speaker. Her name is Susan Schnur. Correct? Are you from New York? Cleveland. I'm sorry. Okay. She's from Cleveland, and she's here to discuss the history of the struggle for the rights of the LGBT&Q community. Always stay safe.
But before I get on the mic, why don't we all just stand up for a moment and shake out the cobweb?
Do this.
Now I know it's a stereotype that lesbians love sports.
Don't shoot.
Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot!
All right.
Close now.
Better standing up. Can you? Is the mic on?
Yes.
Maybe it's on.
I didn't do it.
You broke it. You got it.
Let's just check it.
Oh, okay. Well, here's another one.
Well, there's one. There's a live one there. Good.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for having me here, and thank you to the Detroit branch for us putting on a very stimulating program and activities. I did take a lot of material out of this book, Roots of Lesbian and Gay Oppression by Rob McCubbin, and I saw that this is worth a study group as well, because it does go into angles, which is also parallel to women's oppression, which is when lesbian, gay, queer oppression start to rise at the same time as women's oppression. Now, Marxism teaches us that technology
Right?
doesn't work. The revolution will not be tweeted.
Oh, I like that.
Mic check.
He went out for, he'd be back, but he's an expert at this stuff.
All right. But then it doesn't get.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway. Maybe because I'm new. Hello? Okay.
Okay, good. Very good.
Okay, Marxism teaches us that how we live, how we satisfy our material needs, food, clothing, shelter, translates into how we perceive the world. What we call it being determines consciousness. And this is true even in issues of attraction, love, relationships, and how we view ourselves. Last week I was able to go to Chicago, a conference, there's a special assembly for Food is a Right. And Jerry was talking about how the media, everything, if you didn't make it, it's your fault. And you did something wrong, you didn't want it enough. All these mega churches are based on if you just believe you'll be rich like me, says the minister to the flock. And it's an illusion. It's an illusion that they've created through religion, through television, through economics. And they create that illusion so they can steal all the wealth that all of us, in all of our diversity, have created through our labor. They even created religions to stay rich. And in fact, they say God meant them to be rich. That was Romney's old shtick. I'm also Jewish, by the way, and I want to say there's a lot of Jewish people still involved in the movement. Who was born Jewish? Let's raise our hands. All right, so there's a few more, yeah, so we're still out here. Don't believe that all Jews support Israel. That is such a lie. People are just being bullied into this class line, or this bigoted line about that. There's many Jewish people who hate Israel, who say free Gaza, and we're in the movement, and we're in our party.
That's right.
Another component of Marxism is that of a dialectic, the unity of opposites. Thus, if there are rich people, there's got to be poor people. Of course, if there are no rich people, then there won't be any poor people. So that is called, a fancy way of saying, it's the negation of the negation. So that's why they say, well, communists, they don't like rich people. No, we don't like poor people. So we need to keep the wealth for us. Now, how did this tie into lesbian and gay oppression, LGBT oppression, and the fight for liberation? In prehistory, like Chris was talking about, everyone had to pull together. There were no rich people. There were no poor people. There was just people. So everyone was looked at for their strengths. If you were a transgender male who had sensitivity and probably healing techniques, you were honored because they needed you. If you were a woman who liked to hunt, fish, that's a stereotype. You were allowed to go. You were allowed to go out and hunt and fish and do your thing because it helped the group all together. Now, when there started becoming accumulation, then we started having people who wanted it all, and men were stronger, probably because of childbirth. Sometimes they feel like in the McCubbin book because of the type of tasks that were divided. But childbirth is actually a life-threatening condition, and that's why abortion is a health issue. More women die from childbirth than abortions. It really was. Women, until the modern epoch, died much earlier than men. Men married over and over because women would die in childbirth. So the men started collecting extra, not everywhere, but when there was surplus, someone wanted to rule. Lesbian and gay relations ruin that equation because in general there's no heirs. If you don't have your family and your men to hand your stuff down to, it's a huge argument. It's a big fight. I love to read. There's an author who's really very cynical, but his name is Ken Follett. And I read a book about the 12th century where the king had no heirs, and the fighting went on for 100 years, 100-year war, of who gets the stuff, who gets the castle, who gets the cattle that the people raise themselves. And the other thing is, unless you can fight, if you're a man who doesn't want to fight, they can't draft you, they can't use you for war. You're a detriment to this whole process of patriarchy. Now, when we talk about divide and conquer, what does that mean? Well, it basically means, and what they teach our classes it means, even if people are not a Nazi and want everyone dead, they still want to make more money. And if it means that black person down the street or that lesbian couple down the street makes less, they don't care. Because our daily survival depends on making money. We have to make money. So they use these tactics to increase exploitation. Then the white people who are outsourced the products, they don't care they're making less without a union. They at least have a job. So that's how they keep dividing us and to conquer us. Now, in the 50s, lesbian and gay people lost jobs, lost everything. Other people stepped right in and took their jobs and didn't do anything about it. And if you were a lesbian and gay person, and even to this day, in the majority of states, including Ohio, and I believe Michigan as well, if you're a lesbian or gay person, they can fire you, unless you have union protection. And what are we down to, 10%? 7%? So that's a real thing, and in times of scarcity, that might be a reason for someone to blow the whistle on someone else. Because if they can get their job, when we're all fighting over the crumbs, those are really important to people. Now, in the 50s and 60s, before there was a massive lesbian and gay movement, it was very hard for someone to stand up to their boss and say, I don't like you using pejorative terms towards us. But once a movement begins, people have the strength to stand up and say no more, because we had each other. I'm gonna go fast because other people have better prepared, but that comes to a theory that I call, and this is a total dialectic, it's called collective self-interest. You have to know you're important, you have to know that I matter as a human being, no matter what the rich think. I am not just a pair of hands and someone to work until I drop dead. And if you live longer, which is what pensions are, they hope you drop dead before you collect it anyway. Because we're living longer, they'll just take it now. I mean, because they don't view us as anything else but ants, or else we would have been on top as well. So one thing Workers' World Party has always shown to me is they have my back as a lesbian and as a woman, and I want to have everyone else's back, whether it's African Americans, whether it's Asians, whether it's transgender people, whether it's the people of Gaza. Workers' World is for solidarity. We don't care if we're popular, because in the future it showed that we were correct in solidarity and that people will have my back. And they will have my back. Now we're going to make mistakes. I've made mistakes. And people have called me on it. Sometimes I've realized that just right after it popped out of my mouth, which is called the gumball effect. But we're all victims, or we're all influenced by bourgeois ideas. We're all influenced by the ideas of the class in power. And that's right, when we overturn class relations in this country and in this world, things won't change immediately, but we'll be able to put out our ideas. Our ideas of equality and beauty and love for people.
Cultural revolution.
Exactly. And it comes again from finances, because the biggest thing for every single person is, how am I going to survive? That is really big, and it really, really influences the culture in the society. Now, we all make mistakes because we're all inundated with racism, with sexism, with homophobia, with ageism, against people who have illnesses, aren't given health care. But what I noticed in Workers' World, if you make a mistake and you learn from it, you can make new mistakes. Because we know when push comes to shove, comrades have each other's back. And we will. I don't think we're going to be like that conference in Basel or Oregano, wherever it was, and poop out on the war issue. We're not.
No.
And we're going to be a Bolshevik party that doesn't poop out on transgender issues. And we're going to keep defending Chelsea Manning. The Social Democrats are embarrassed by Chelsea Manning. Oh, they talk about Snowden, who's very courageous. Daniel Ellsberg, also very courageous people, definitely. Who was the other,
Julian.
Assange, very courageous. Chelsea Manning still rotting in the brig, surrounded by bigots, but they're embarrassed. But we're not, because we know that an injury to one is an injury to all. And that's what I want to say. To really get to the depths of how lesbian oppression grew, you can read this book, and I'd say discuss it, because it's really interesting and it really goes into being and consciousness. I just want to make one other remark, though, about, this is not about my topic. This is about the role of camouflage. Now, it's called camouflage because it's supposed to make you invisible. I don't know how wearing jungle fatigues in a city makes them invisible. Maybe they should be wearing, I don't know, gray for cement. To me, it's like just the most bizarre thing of all. And like hunters, they wear camouflage, then they wear an orange vest. Well, anyway, I think it's definitely to put the psychology of you're at war in the bourgeoisie's mind, in the mindset of the military, which is what the police are. So, thank you so much for having me here. And, one other point I did want to make. The transition from feudalism to capitalism is what helped fuel the modern lesbian and gay movement. And the high-tech revolution is what's fueling all of our gains now, as well as, of course, our movement is still vibrant. But we in Workers' World celebrate all victories, but I'll tell you, I couldn't celebrate the marriage decision because it came the next day after they took people's voting rights away. So that is a blatant attempt to keep us divided for the white lesbian gay community to think how somehow now we get to pass our inheritance to our partners instead of giving it back to the bourgeoisie. It is a very important issue, though, for working class people, especially when you age, because I now have great experience in what happens to old people. You lose everything when you get sick. But if you're married, you won't lose your home if your partner has to go in the nursing home. For lesbian and gay couples, they do. And there's nothing that can protect that. There's no civil law, there's no contract you can write up. They will take the home before they will approve Medicaid, unless you're legally married. And that's why this is quite a victory for our elders in our community. So, everything is a dialectic. Thank you.